Hey, welcome to another episode of Clear Lake Connections, where we talk to the people behind the businesses of Bay Area Houston, proudly sponsored by UTMB Health. Today's guest, Mary Loper with the Loper Group. Correct. And tell us what the Loper Group does. I read it on the website, and it sounds very interesting.
Well, we're a business-to-business service provider, and we provide environmental, sustainability, environmental engineering, a lot of different services, consulting services in the sustainability and environmental sector across a lot of industries throughout the U.S. So we're based here in Seabrook, and we started about 2002, and we've been providing historically cleaning up toxic substances. That has been our main focus. So we worked at managing and being included and cooperatively engaging with the teams that are responsible for cleaning up Superfund sites, if you are familiar with what a Superfund site is. So just basically any toxic substances that have posed a risk to human health and the environment. And that's where we've kind of gone along until about probably 5 or 6 years ago, when we decided we needed to shift the focus a little bit away from, not completely away from, because that's, a lot of these projects are 20-year-long projects or more. And so we shifted away from, we wanted to provide to some of those same clients services that were sustainable, procurement, things that are going to help them engage in business practices that are going to stop those negative effects from happening in the first place. So we're getting less in the cleanup and more in the prevention, so to speak. And we focus mostly in the environmental sector. And then we started talking about sustainability, and really it's a business process, and how that looks for the companies that we work with. Mostly large chemical companies would have been our primary client. Obviously, those are the people that have, the companies that have had the most legacy liabilities that we would be looking to clean up from. Yeah. But then we moved into having some that are, sustainability is going everywhere because it's in everything that we do all the time. It's just basic business practice.
It's become a very popular word.
It has. And so it's been a real buzzword, especially like in marketing, and you'll see stuff, commercials and those kind of things talking about their products being sustainable, or their businesses looking at their sustainability. And really, I think a lot of people don't know what sustainability really is. They just think it's like the greening of a company, like a company's going green, or they're supplying that product that's better for the environment. And really, sustainability is just what sustainable means. It's in business to stay in business in the long term. You want to be able to sustain what you're doing, and that means that you're trying to have a impact that is positive and not go through your resources quickly. And that's however you may deem your resources are people, but we talk about it's people, profit, and planet. And so really it's your business, no matter big or small, is going to have an impact in those areas. And so we're looking at your business staying in business for the long term, what it's doing in your community, how it's helping your community, because all businesses, especially here at the Chamber, you all know that, impact the community in some way, shape, or form. And we want to make sure that that's positive, and that it's also coming back to help your company's profits and bottom line. Because when the businesses in an area do well, the community does well. The community does well, the earth does well, and environment and so forth.
So it's all about creating a net positive effect.
It is
on the bottom line and in the community.
Correct. And so we talk about, we want you to make a profit. Nobody's telling you have to start, we talk about zero waste initiatives and those kind of things. We're not just telling you have to start only purchasing products that are, going to go right into your compost bin. Ideally, everybody would love to be doing that, but it's really those processes that are going to keep you in business in the long term. And it's not going to affect people's ability to do business in the future. So it's current now, the UN Commission on Environmental and Impact, they talk about it being, being in business so that you can stay in business now, but not so that it prevents others from meeting the needs in the future.
Yeah. So sustainability is also keeping an eye on the future and really,
Right.
future-proofing your business.
Absolutely.
Whatever that looks like.
It really is future-proofing your business, and it's about making good choices now that are going to help you stay in business. Now, it doesn't mean that the choices you're making now are going to be the choices you're making in 20 years, but it does mean that the choices you're making now are going to be ones that will help you change maybe those decisions in the future or go with the flow, and have a positive impact on where you live, where you work, what you do.
And how did you get into this business?
So I have a background. I was a mental health counselor, and then I was teaching. But neither one of those things, I love them so much, both of those things. But neither one of them seemed to really be fitting for me anymore. And being that the Loper Group's a small family business, I lived and breathed it for over 20 years. So Tom and John asked me to look at whether sustainability would be a good line for me to work in. And so then they encouraged me to seek certification as a sustainability practitioner, and then come on board. And it made sense because now, as the Loper Group, we represent sustainability is 3 pillars. It's people, profit, planet, right? And I came from a very people-oriented background. And John is a chemical engineer who comes from a very chemical engineering background, and Tom is an MBA, so he's very business-oriented. So we kind of fit all 3 pillars in and looked at that, how we were going to start structuring moving forward with the company. And we have obvious projects that are going to last a really long time, but we really wanted to look at the prevention and the sustainable aspects of those things.
So what's it like working with family that close all the time?
Honestly, it's great. It does have its drawbacks. And I mean, one being consultants, we can do most of what we do anywhere. And work from anywhere, but that also means you do work from anywhere. And when we're at family engagements, sometimes it's hard for us to not just mention we have this coming up, or this project is.
Are those billable hours?
They're not billable hours unless we're making something specific. And we talk about being billable, that's a lot. And so we say, if we have this conversation at lunch, and even though everybody's here, is this billable? Should we be billing the client for this time? And the answer is no, but trying to rein that back in, in family functions, but also Thomas and John, and we'll all travel a lot. If we have to go out on site to a manufacturing site, or one of the Superfund sites. So they used to be gone a lot. COVID has changed that for us. I mean, that's a very positive way. That's one of our sustainability goals, was to reduce our amount of travel and air pollution type of thing.
Yeah.
And so COVID has really helped with that. And I know that that's not COVID's not been a positive thing on business in most aspects, but in that aspect, we were able to find new avenues to really not have to go out to Alabama or to New Jersey or to Pennsylvania as often as we were. And so I think that's helped us shift our focus more to home too. Yeah.
And so we've been hearing success stories like that throughout COVID, because we started the podcast, I guess, kind of I guess it was close to the beginning of when we were coming out of it. And people took risks and actually grew businesses and learned new ways to do things, like you said.
They do.
What's your number one lesson coming out of COVID and for a business?
Well, I think it's that you can find a creative way to go about doing the things that you want to do in your business without necessarily having to do it the way that you used to do it. So we talked about in sustainability, we talk about that ability to change and go with what's happening now. There's obviously a need to go out on site if we're overseeing soil sampling or that kind of thing. But if we're having a meeting with 25 people, it's just as easy to do it on Teams and on or on one of those type of platforms where we can meet with everybody without everybody having to come from various parts of the world sometimes to be in one place. It's made everything smaller for us, and really it's brought everything more local. And we really wanted to start looking at the change that everything has created. We want to stay home. I think that's
it's helped with that. And, so you mentioned a Superfund site. Are you currently working on any of those projects?
Yes. Now legally, I wouldn't be able to tell you which ones.
Right.
I think that without getting their permission first. Obviously, we do work across the United States, and so we have a couple that we're part of the teams for. We lead one of the investigative teams in a large project in Anniston, Alabama.
So if you could tell us a little more about what a Superfund site is, because I know we had one here right in our own backyard, but I don't think a lot of people knew about it.
And Superfund is a program led by the EPA, and it's a program that is designed to have the people or the companies who are responsible, so we call them the responsible party, do the cleanup and manage the cleanup for when there's been a chemical of concern or a contaminant of concern that may be toxic or pose a risk to human health and the environment. So it's an area that's had soil problems, trying to think of different easier way for you to digest it, so there's going to be a lot of contaminants, something that might cause cancer, something that might cause a problem to just fish in the area, or which ultimately comes down to you, or water, soil, that things that affect that. We've working on a PCB project in Anniston, Alabama for a number of years. I think my father-in-law John has been on the project for more than 25 years or more, and then there's places there's some places in New Jersey where you're looking at swamplands and marshes, but it really is just an area that's been known to have the investigation. There's been an investigation into what's going on, and there's some contaminant of concern.
Yeah, and it's amazing how long those projects are. I remember the Brio one. It just took forever.
They are really long. It takes a long time to get. It may take a short amount of time to actually pollute an area or, to cause a problem, but it does take a long time for us to get it cleaned up.
Yeah, but I also think those are great examples of how past business practices didn't take sustainability into consideration.
That is absolutely correct. They did not. And so they're looking at, and sometimes they just didn't know, it's not that they were out there to do wrong and that they wanted to pollute the soil, or that they were, in our efforts to progress as human beings, we're always looking to do something, feed more people, get more water, more resources to more communities, or however that might be, help us stay cool or more comfortable, or, get our more people medical supplies and engaged in getting good medicine brought to them.
Yeah.
And we didn't necessarily look at how what we were doing to manufacture, the manufacturing process wasn't looked at as what's going to happen with this product in the future. What will, the waste product of this. I mean, we've really been kind of what's here and now. We need to focus on what we need to get the medicine to this person. So how are we going to do that? Plastics, everybody gets plastic, but then it's single use. And so the list goes on how you can come back to some of those practices and look at them and say, oh, well, in hindsight, that wasn't a good practice.
Yeah.
And so now we do know that some of those practices weren't sustainable, because we're having to clean them up, and then people have gotten sick from them. And, we look at what can we do now, and we're not pointing any fingers with sustainability. Well, at least we are not pointing any fingers with sustainability. We just want you to engage in business practices that are going to keep you in business and keep everybody healthy.
Well, I think our community is a good example of sustainability and the benefits it provides, because I don't think Galveston Bay has probably been cleaner than it is now. I mean, we've really made efforts and taken sustainability seriously as a community.
So our community is somewhere in the, I don't want to say behind or up front. We're somewhere in the middle. There's a sustainable communities index that we can look at. I have not really researched to see where we fit into that. We do have a number of chemical companies in the area, manufacturing and industrial in like LaPorte and in Texas City, and oil and gas is a big thing for us, and all of those companies have now started to look at, I mean, they're going to have to look at what their sustainable practices are, and all of that will come through regulations, their sustainability reports, their sustainability programs. And we are not in a bad position, I don't think, and Galveston Bay is cleaner than it used to be. And there's a number of nonprofits in the area that do a lot of great work with waterways. Like I think of Galveston Bay Foundation, which I recently had a sustainability client in the area that was looking for some opportunities for them to engage with local things that would help them with their sustainability efforts. And Galveston Bay Foundation definitely fit the bill for a lot of those things. They're doing an oyster recovery program. They're doing a lot of things to help the community. And really, when we talk about sustainability, those programs, not-for-profits, are going to be a huge way that a lot of businesses can help their own sustainability programs.
Yeah. I always tell people, it's never a bad thing to pollute less.
No.
Period. End of story.
It's not. And reducing your single-use plastics is always a good thing. I'm not the plastic police, though, contrary to popular belief. I'm not the person going in and saying, you can't have plastic, you should stop printing, using paper, you should stop. I mean, those may be components of changes that we recommend when we look at your business, but that I'm not policing that for you. That has to be a goal that you'd want through your company, and really it is about doing what's right in your business so that other people can stay in business, you can stay in business, and I think of the book The Lorax a lot. By Dr. Seuss. A lot of people ask me what it is, and I think the Lorax, and he goes in and he makes those sneeds or thneeds, whatever it is, and he's just pulling down all of his resources that are around him and not thinking about what is going to happen when all those resources are gone. I'm no longer going to be able to produce my need and stay in business. And so that's really what it is. You're looking at
I think for
things.
Big corporations and small businesses alike, looking beyond the next quarter can be difficult. And that's really what you're trying to introduce to them.
It's hard to forecast, but there are some knowns, right? There are things that we know. And if you're looking at reducing waste is definitely going to, cut your costs. It ultimately will cut costs, and it will boost your profits just because you cut costs. But then there's other things that it boosts your image. Generations behind us, they know that there's been a problem, and they're more aware of it than our generation was. We're becoming aware of it more now, but the generation behind us, they're well aware of what the problems we face in our world, in our community, those things that we have, and so they're demanding that companies and businesses be more sustainable, and that you are engaging responsibly with your environment and with the people. So a lot of those positions. So I don't want to say only younger people are thinking of it, but they're the ones coming into the market now, and they're the new employees. They're the people who are going to be coming out of this and making purchase decisions and business decisions, and they want it to be more responsible. And so that demand is really high.
Yeah.
And so that's why you'll see more marketing. And I don't, not to say that you want to start greenwashing, because you definitely don't, but companies that are engaging in sustainable stuff are seeing more profits because those people the consumers are demanding it.
It's important to the younger
Yes.
generation. And speaking of the younger
is.
generation, you had a graduation.
We did.
And
yes.
Are there plans to step into the family business, or?
So I think my youngest does, but my twins are actually special needs. They graduated on Friday, and so they are they have little jobs set up, but we haven't talked about how they're going to enter the workforce just quite yet.
Yeah.
Jonah has talked about going into chemical engineering, my youngest, and I think he would like to come into the family business and start looking at that and what that would look like. And he hears us talking about sustainability all the time, and sometimes we get the eye roll, and sometimes he's like, oh, well, yeah, did you see this commercial about, from BP or one of these other companies that's doing this and that? And he's like, oh, well, maybe that's the way things are going to go in the future. And I'm like, well, we're there now. I think everybody just needs to start realizing that we are there.
Yeah.
And smaller businesses, I'd love to see them come into the family business. And for the twins, probably it won't happen other than like maybe they'll do some of our website stuff, because, one of them is very into computing stuff, and digital stuff would be fun. But I think my youngest would definitely looks at the world differently than I do. So, it's not about cleaning up the mess. It's more about stopping the mess from happening. Not his own mess, but the future mess.
Kids.
He doesn't see
kids
his own
have their
mess.
limits.
No,
yes,
they
have their limits. Well, it's been a pleasure. Anything else you want to tell the audience about sustainability before we part?
No, I just think that it's something that all the businesses in the community should really, not big or small, or even nonprofits, should be looking at. There's going to be a lot of regulations. There's a lot of trickle down stuff in the supply chain. So no matter where you are in that supply chain, it's going to affect you. And looking at it is, there are small changes that you can make. It doesn't have to be all go net zero, go zero waste, or, carbon neutral by a certain point, but just looking at what's going to help me stay in business for the long run and not overuse my resources.
Yeah, I think that's the great point. Is it's all about down the road and just planning for it now.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for coming.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it.
This was fun.